Welcome to the Seeding and Selection Show for the 2022 Newsenda Credit Union State Football Championships. Tonight, we will release the brackets for classes 2A through 6A. A lot of teams anxiously waiting to find out what seed they got and who they'll be playing. Heck, in Class 6A alone, Centennial beat Cleveland, Cleveland beat La Cueva beat Centennial, so who's 1, 2, and 3? Well, we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Before we do, let's explain how this whole seeding process takes place. The seeding and selection process is not the NMAA sitting in a room randomly deciding who should be the 1 seed, the 2 seed, etc., etc. It is not that. What it is a process that is all data driven. The following criteria is used to determine a team's seed. We look at finish in regular season district play, max preps rankings, overall record, wins against district champs regardless of class, member school input, that's the coach's input and their rankings, and any head-to-head matchups. The schools are compared to one another in each of those criteria points, and the seeding is determined like one big math problem. It's all based on the numbers and the data. In the event of a tie among those criteria points, head-to-head will be used to break the tie. If there's no head-to-head competition or head-to-head competition is tied, then Max Prep's strength of schedule will be used to break the tie. There is no input given by NMAA staff. Let me repeat that. No input by NMAA staff. It's all data-driven based on those criteria points. Did you beat a district champ? Did you have a better record? Were you ranked higher? Where did the coaches rank you in their input forms? All of those things. There is no bias for or against any school or team. If there's ever a question about the seeding, the answer is in the data. Now that you understand how it's done, let's get to it. You clicked on this show to see the brackets, right? The first bracket of the night is as simple as 1, 2, 3. Number 1 in 2A is just 3 letters. JAL is the number 1 seed. The Panthers are undefeated. They made it to the state final last season. Alex Carrion and Jacob Lujan are the 2 big playmakers on offense. JAL's game against Texaco is the only game they played this year where they didn't have at least a running clock. 7 Mercy Rule games this season, but they needed a come-from-behind win at Texaco to keep their perfect record intact.
Texaco definitely, gave us the look on who we are. We were down 2 touchdowns in the third quarter and were able to come back and win that thing. And so that was our four-quarter battle. So, but yeah, we needed that game. We needed that game for sure to kind of see where we're at. You don't like to get in the playoffs and get surprised and things like that. So I think we're ready. I think we're ready to go into that next part of our season.
Let's take a look at the 2A bracket. JAL gets Escalante, the 8 seed. Defending state champ Eunice is the 4, Estancia the 5. They will meet up. Santa Rosa is a 3 seed. They will host Loving. Texaco is the 2 and will take on Tularosa this week. Now, Texaco is young. They only have 1 senior, and he was hurt in the first game of the year. Quarterback Cade Figg leads the way for the Wolverines. This group is young, but they've been able to develop into a championship caliber team.
You hear the big boys, the Sabins and the Dabo Sweeneys and the Kirby Smarts and all those people talk about the process, and it really has been, and we always start every year with our culture and we start with our core values and our core values. And the number one thing we talk about is love each other first. And, it's not about personal accolades, and it's try to help your teammate be better first, and so these guys did that. They've bought into everything we've done.
Moving on to Class 3A, the number one seed is a team that was in the final in 2019, Socorro. The Warriors are the top seed in 3A. Socorro is undefeated. Senior Marcus Armijo is a dual-threat quarterback. Brian Armijo gets a lot of carries, and senior captain Caden Moreland is one of the team leaders.
Caden Moreland, he's a linebacker, tight end, receiver type kid. I think he's a next level kid. If somebody gave him a chance, I think he has the talent to even work his way in the Division I level. He's a special athlete, special leader, tough, gritty kid. He can get a lot done.
Here are the top four. Ruidoso is the 2 seed, Robertson the 3, and St. Michael's the 4. Now, Ruidoso's Caden Sago rushed for over 1,000 yards this year. The Warriors made it to the state final last season. Finishing as the runner-up has been motivating to some of these guys.
It's kind of something that lives with me every day. Every morning I wake up, I think, I'm not going to be like that. Get up and go to the weight room, practice harder. Everything is just kind of revolved around that.
This was just a hungry team coming off of last year's loss to Lovington in the state championship. And these guys have just been great to work with, hard workers. Really, since we lost that state championship last year, these guys have just been working hard in the weight room and in the off season, and really just kind of hungry to get back on the field and get after it this year.
Let's take a look at the bracket. Dexter Cobre is the 8-9 matchup, and the winner will play Socorro. Thoreau is the 5 seed against 12 seed Hope Christian. Now, this deserves a little explanation. West Las Vegas beat Thoreau 54-0, but before we compare those two schools, we have to compare Thoreau against Raton, because Raton was ahead of West Las Vegas in district. When we compare Raton and Thoreau, Raton had the advantage in the coach's input and Max Prep's rankings, while Thoreau had a better district finish, overall record, and a win against the district champ. So that's 3 criteria points against 2. So by a count of 3-2, Thoreau would be seated ahead of Raton. And Raton gets in before West Las Vegas. Raton is the 6, Hatch Valley the 11, West Las Vegas is the 7 seed, and will take on Newcomb. Moving on to Class 4A, everyone in the field would love to lift the blue trophy, but in Class 4A, silver is the top color right now. Silver's your top seed. Silver's only loss is a 7-0 defeat against Deming. Head coach Jerome Ortiz played on Silver's 04 and 05 teams that reached the final. He calls this group hard-headed and hard-hitting. His words, not mine. Aiden Granado, Mason Lockett, Ricky Vasquez, they just pound the ball at you.
I have 3 of the best running backs in the state, and I'll put them up against any defense, these running backs. And defensively, I would just honestly say smash mouth, juggernaut type football, because you can see on film, I have kids on there that are 130 pounds soaking wet, and they hit like they weigh 200 pounds. So, defensively, I would say smash mouth, and offensively, it's run and gun.
Here are the top 4 in 4A. Bloomfield gets a bye, Taos gets a bye, and Lovington gets a bye. Bloomfield is 9-1, and their only loss is to Silver. Taos is also 9-1, and they're on a 9-game win streak. Lovington is the defending state champ. They beat Portales Friday night 20-14 to win that district title. The Wildcats lost their first 6 games of the year with a tough schedule, but they've won 4 straight by an average of 27 points. Here's the bracket. Aztec and Valencia will meet in the 8-9 matchup. Winner gets silver. Portales is the 5. They host 12 seed St. Pius. The Rams beat the Sartans earlier this year. That was one of 3 trips to Albuquerque for Portales this season. Now St. Pius will come to them. Academy is the 6 seed and Bernalillo the 11. That'll be a rematch of Friday's 27-24 game where the Chargers beat Bernalillo. And Moriarty will host Kirtland Central. The winner moves on to face Bloomfield. In Class 5A, it's no secret who is going to get this one tonight. The Artesia Bulldogs. Artesia has about 90 kids dressing out every Friday night, so they definitely have numbers. Junior quarterback Nia Estrada is having a solid season. Junior Peyton Grayhouse is their leading receiver. Their defense is one of the strongest parts of their team, and they have several touchdowns on special teams. So, as you can guess, they're pretty good all the way around. They lost in the title game last year, but reaching the final did give confidence to those returning guys in the program.
I was the new coach, and so making it to the state championship game that first year, I think it gave them some hope in the staff and belief in us and what we were trying to do. And the buy-in, like I said, was, pretty much it's been really good from the beginning, but there's a difference this summer. There's a difference last spring in our weight room.
Every morning in the weight room, he gets us hyped up. He'll go around, dab us up, or just make jokes. He's really interactive, and he's really made a connection with all of us.
Here are the top 4 teams. Roswell is the 2, Piedra Vista the 3, Goddard the 4. 3 of those 4 teams are from the same district. Let's take a look at the bracket. Valley earned an 8 seed, Miamura the 9. They will go head-to-head. Deming is a 5 seed and will host Belen. Mayfield the 6. They'll meet up with Santa Teresa. The 11, Los Alamos is your 7 seed. The Hilltoppers get Gadsden, who is in the field as a 10 seed. Now, according to the Las Cruces Sun News, the Panthers last made the state playoffs in 1979. Last but not least, Class 6A. As I mentioned earlier, Cleveland, Centennial, and La Cueva could all make a case for the top seed. But when it comes down to the data and those 6 criteria points, it sorted itself out. Let me show you what it looks like when the teams are compared against each other with those 6 criteria points. Let's start with comparing Cleveland and Centennial. Cleveland had a better Max Preps ranking, more wins against a district champ, and a better coach's input. Centennial had a better overall record win percentage than Cleveland, and they beat them head-to-head. But by a 3-2 score, Cleveland would be ranked ahead of Centennial. See how this works? Now let's compare Cleveland and La Cueva. Cleveland had a higher Max Preps ranking and coach's input, and they beat the Bears head-to-head. La Cueva had the better overall record, but by a 3-1 score, Cleveland would be ranked ahead of them too. So, I'm sure you guessed by now, the Cleveland Storm is your number 1 seed. Cleveland is the defending state champ, multiple Division I players on this year's roster, and Cleveland has played in every state final since 2018. So what about the 2 and the 3 seeds? Let's compare Centennial and La Cueva. The Hawks had a better Max Preps ranking and coach's input, but La Cueva had a better overall win percentage, wins against district champs, and they beat Centennial head-to-head. So, by that 3-2 count, La Cueva would be seated ahead of Centennial. It's worth noting, Centennial lost a game on the schedule when an El Paso school canceled. The Hawks opened the season against Cleveland, El Paso Franklin, and La Cueva.
Our first 3 games was, I think, tougher than anybody in the region. We played those 2 schools, and we played El Paso Franklin. And I think El Paso Franklin's only lost 2 games. Unfortunately, we won't get credit if they win their district, which they're in the running for, because they play 1 more week than us. So, they're, I guarantee, a lot better than a district champ that maybe somebody else beat that's at a lower classification. But it's just the rules that we have right now. And it just is what it is. If you're a good team, you've got to prove it on the field. And, as long as you get in the tournament, that's what you're looking for right there. But yeah, those first 3 games were tough. As we've gone on through this season, we found there's some other really good teams too. So New Mexico high school football is really good.
Officially, here are the top 4 teams. Cleveland, La Cueva, Centennial, and Hobbs. Hobbs is senior loaded with 28 seniors on this team, including quarterback Omar Argett and senior star receiver Caden Trevino. Head coach Ken Stevens won multiple state titles at Eunice before taking the job at Hobbs 4 years ago. He knows what it takes to get to the final game.
One game at a time. Don't look at the bracket. Don't look at who's next, because once you get to the playoffs, it's win or go home. And so there's whatever team's in front of you is the only game you have.
Let's take a look at the last bracket of the night. Here are the first round matchups in Class 6A. I'll explain all these numbers. Cibola is your 8, Los Lunas is your 9. Volcano Vista, you're the 5 against 12 seed Atrisco Heritage. Winner will travel to Hobbs. Rio Rancho is in as a 6 and Alamogordo is the 11. Farmington is your 7 seed and Carlsbad is the 10. They match up and the winner moves on to face La Cueva. Now, there was a four-way tie between Farmington, Cibola, Los Lunas, and Carlsbad. They each beat each other in those criteria points one way or another. Farmington is the team that came out on top of that four-way tie. So they are the 7 seed. With Farmington out of the mix, there was then a three-way tie between Cibola, Los Lunas, and Carlsbad. Cibola came out on top of that three-way tie. So then you had Los Lunas and Carlsbad matched head-to-head, and Los Lunas beat Carlsbad in criteria points. So Los Lunas is the 9, Carlsbad the 10. One more note, the final team in came down to Atrisco Heritage and West Mesa. When compared with the 6 criteria points, Atrisco had a better Max Preps ranking and coaches' input along with the head-to-head win, that big shootout they had. West Mesa only had a better district finish. So by a 3-1 count, Atrisco was in and West Mesa was out. That is your final bracket. Don't forget, you can watch the state championship games this fall on the NFHS network. So get a subscription and log on so you can watch the championship matchups. That's going to do it for the Seeding and Selection Show for the 2022 Newsenda Credit Union Football State Championships. Good luck to all the teams involved. We will see you on the field, and remember to compete with class.